Welcome to Patrons Golf. The second major has been run and won. Aaron Rai wins at Aronimink with an incredible final round. We'll get into that. We'll get into the Byron Nelson this week at TPC Craig Ranch. But yeah, Aaron Rai. I think. I mean, upon reflection, it's obviously super easy to, I guess, to do this after the fact, but. You take the putting aside because he's, on tour, statistically one of the worst putters going in. But the one thing we know about Aaron Rai, outside of the fact that he wears two gloves, iron covers, and all this, I guess, stuff that probably rubs people the wrong way for some reason. His approach play is incredible. He's super accurate. He's super reliable. So, I guess, for how tricky the Aronimink played in the setup, and like you can debate it, whether it was good for golf or if it was bad for golf. I think Aaron Rai is probably someone, had we had known the scoring conditions were going to be like this, that's probably someone you look at maybe a little bit closer than you did prior. But yeah, look, the winning score at 9 under. You have Alex Smalley and John Rahm in second with 6 under, and I guess that kind of gives you an indication of, I guess, just how difficult it played. Uh, it for the most part, I think the course played how I figured it would. With all of the talk about the rough, the complexity of the greens, I think what we saw is like it was guys missing their mark by kind of 4 or 5 meters, and it was, the penalty to that was absolutely massive. I'm For full disclosure, I'm absolutely all for this kind of golf. I thought the 4 days was incredible. I thought the Sunday was a little bit disappointing. I think, we had Rory, Rahm, Xander, Justin Thomas, Scotty was a little bit back, but still in the mix. Justin Rose, thereabouts. I think we did kind of have all of the makings for like a real classic, you know, major Sunday finish. And to be honest, yeah, it was, and Ludwig as well, which is another story, I guess. And it was there was really Aaron Rai who eagles who eagles the ninth and then kind of goes on a run. And that was really all it was. Justin Thomas was, had a really good week, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But um, disappointing for Rory. I think, we kind of saw the frustration kick in a little bit with the fans. Obviously in Philadelphia, are probably going to be it's probably the one city in America where you're probably going to get fans that, I guess, kind of make it like an American home Ryder Cup kind of feel to it. And yeah, like he kind of probably let his emotions get the better of him. Yeah, John Rahm kind of had his moments. Ludwig had his moments, and like, good grief. Like, I think there's a lot to unpack with Ludwig, because we're talking about a guy now who does seem to have a finishing problem. I think it was something like, he hadn't made a putt from over 7 foot in a major for, I can't remember the round, how many rounds it was, but it was a significant enough amount where you kind of are, pulling at your shirt going, "Oh." So I think there's a big discussion with him there, because, statistically, visually, this guy just looks like a multi-major winner. But there does feel to be something that is going horribly wrong once he kind of gets into these positions where he looks like he should be the guy who's favorite. And look, I'm the last person who's going to try and, unpack that or diagnose what that is. But I do wonder, how much of that is kind of his, I guess, his makeup. And like, a lot of people love that aspect of his game, right? Where, it's the look, step over, hit. It's beautiful to watch, but I wonder if like I do wonder if, maybe a more structured, relaxed, maybe relaxed is not the right word, but maybe a more structured, more set, maybe taking a little bit more time. Yeah, if that works. But yeah, there's something going wrong there. Ludwig, I saw a stat about people comparing him to, Rory's majors in terms of like how he started in his career. I think like the massive difference is like, Ludwig is how old is Ludwig? I'm pretty sure he's like 27. I don't have that info on there, but I think he's 27 years old. Um, and like we're comparing that to Ludwig. Let's see. Yeah, so he's 26, 27 this year. Um, all of those stats are comparing to Rory when he's in his kind of early 20s, 21, 22 years. It's just not really like 5 years is such a significant difference. And Ludwig looks like, like he doesn't look like what Rory looked like at that age. So yeah, it was a tough one. Justin Thomas, that was kind of a tale of, I think, probably what most players ran into. Was the clubhouse leader for probably about like a 3 hour period after he played, which, he kind of spoke about how he approaches that, given what he had done previously with Brian Harmon, ended up getting on the beers and having a horrific finish. But yeah, look, I Justin Thomas was someone I kind of profiled and had a bet at a pretty big price the week before after seeing the way his game kind of looked, and shooting 5 under in the final round was an exceptional round. Like anyone who shot anywhere above 4 under, like that was a a crazy round. So look, a really good week for him. Xander, I thought was really disappointing too. He loses strokes on approach for the tournament. Ends up finishing seventh, but he had his chances. Cam Smith, really good story. That there was kind of like a press clip, I think, of him talking about why, like talking about the fact that he changed coaches. So he'd been with his coach, I think, since he was a kid, and you could actually visibly see it on his face that that he looked pretty. That looked like a pretty difficult decision, and he did look kind of choked up a little bit talking about it. But he kind of gets a new coach on board, and yeah, he's still got some massive demons off the tee. But like all the approach and even like the putting wasn't probably there on the final round when he needed it, but that's something that he's always done well and been one of the best in the world at. But yeah, the approach numbers are super positive. If he can figure out a way to get, the driver sorted, I think like that's a that's a guy who's that's a guy who's way too good to be, I guess, not wasting away on the live tour, but his live performances have been average. That's his best major performance in a while. This is a guy who, as an Australian, like I've always loved Cam Smith, and I always felt like the last few years has been tough to watch. Scotty, a typical Scotty kind of a performance, really. Like the putter kind of let him down, and like the approach was just absurd. And like this was a course really kind of set up for him, if we're being honest. Like your approach play needed to be just completely lights out, and the smallest miss was going to be penalized, and you know what, he couldn't drop any putts. So yeah, probably a pretty disappointing week for him. I think he definitely had his moments on the weekend. Justin Rose as well, like as a guy, as a long-standing future I had after Pebble Beach. I think I placed it maybe even before it. Switching to the McLaren irons, like I spoke about how annoying that was, but he showed some he showed some good stuff. Scrambled really well off the tee. I don't know I don't know if he's using a McLaren driver or not, but if he is, he can. break that over his leg and go back to what he was using. But yeah, look, Aaron Rai, I think yeah, well deserving. Like a really great story. Like I loved hearing a lot of the stuff around, the iron covers and like the values that his parents taught him to all that stuff is great. It's probably a guy who deserved it and is a really hard guy to cheer against, even though I was with all the bets that I had. But yeah, well done to him. Moving on, TPC Craig Ranch. As you can see here, like I did announce this a couple of days ago. Like a lot of work has gone into, kind of creating like a little bit of a course history page, and this is what you see in front of you. It's not going to be, it's not going to blow your socks off. It's going to continue to evolve, but I basically just wanted a place that kind of gives you all the stats and stuff that you need for a course each week. There's still a lot of stuff that I look at in terms of on different sites, whether that's Data Golf or the rabbit hole of BetSperts, which I've spoken about a bunch of times. Is just an amazing tool, but it'll get there. So yeah, Scotty Scheffler won at 31 under, and we'll get into the odds shortly, and you can see that this is probably fairly reflected. Taylor Pendrith won in 2024. It's a long course. Full disclosure, I've not done my usual kind of course prep for this. This is an event I'm pretty happy to kind of stay out of. I'm going to take a few shots, but yeah, it's not something that I've spent a lot of time given. Yeah, a lot of time has gone into getting this kind of core stuff up. The player profiles are going through another big ramp as well. Yeah, you can see here are the scoring rates for the last two events. It's a massive course and it's an easy course. So it plays a little bit under 2 strokes to par. Not much of a tee time bias, but the PM wave does play typically a little bit harder. That's obviously going to be weather affected as well, which I won't get into. Uh, Winning method. So this is basically like what the top 10 guys historically do here versus the field. Where are they kind of gaining the most strokes during their rounds? And so it's putting an approach, which is this will continue to evolve as well. We'll add more metrics into it. For now, this is sort of what we've got. I think off the tee, you're not going to see that as much, just because of the fact that there isn't much of a penalty. There's not many hazards here. There's a lot of fairway. Uh, Guys are just going to go, completely full send. And you're just not really going to see that. It's going to be in the approach and putting. The greens are big. They're not complex. It is going to be a scoring fest. And I guess probably the complete opposite to what we just saw on the past week. Another thing we've added is course fits. And it will be absolutely no shock that Scotty Scheffler is is ranked first here. There is quite a big gap in terms of fit from Scotty to Jordan Spieth. These are the top 10 guys. And this is another thing that look, I'll be honest, it is fairly basic right now. I've done my course weights for for every for every setup for the rest of the year, and kind of like the 5 aspects you see here in terms of what is its importance. And so the plan is to see how this goes. I guess it is a fairly basic kind of algorithm, but I will look to kind of contribute or sort of add in putting distances, approach distances, previous performances, and even stuff on like I love kind of course comps. I think it's one of the biggest things about like kind of the work that I go through is looking at courses that do have kind of similar makeups. Just gives you more data. It's always something to, I guess, you take from the course comps what you what you should. Don't take too much, but don't take too little. Obviously, every course is going to play differently, but there's especially with the TPC course, like there are going to be a lot of similarities in terms of how they play. So there's no surprise here. The top three guys in the betting market are Scotty, Jordan Spieth, and Siwoo. Um, and then there's a bunch of guys who are kind of in around that top market. There's a couple of guys here who kind of, I guess, I don't know, shocked me to see here. Bezuidenhout, I wasn't expecting to see here. Tom Kim as well. Maybe his his Jupiter links numbers are factored in here somehow because yeah, to be honest, he's been pretty average on the PGA Tour for what feels like a while now. But uh, as this kind of evolves, I guess this will kind of turn into I guess how I approach or how I look for betting opportunities because it's super basic right now. It doesn't really contain everything that that I look into. It's probably not something I'm doing now. I kind of want to watch and see how it goes over the next few tournaments and then yeah, kind of see how it evolves. But yeah, this is kind of set up for, every for every course that the PGA Tour will play on, as well as the majors. You've got the scoring rates here, like the scoring or the birdie percentages. Bogey percentage does include uh, anything that's basically over par, and then the scoring ranks. I might even kind of evolve this to, I guess, maybe profile a handful of holes, maybe the hardest three and the easiest three, and just give a little bit of a rundown. But yeah, for now, yeah, this is kind of how it looks like. I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out, and yeah, the aim is to kind of evolve the player profile side to kind of highlight, I guess, what kind of edge they have on certain courses. So yeah, very happy with that. Moving on to previous results. So we have this is the Scotty by 7 strokes last year. Um, like a 13 strokes gained approach and six putting is pretty astronomical. I think one of the things that like I'm not looking I guess I'm not looking too much into this. Once we get into the betting price, it'll kind of make sense. But I think if we look at like we've had two guys finish in the top five here who kind of lost strokes off the tee, which is one of the things I spoke about. Like it's not going to be super important. Like guys are not going to get penalized off the tee. And even like someone like Sam Burns and Johnny Vegas, like like they had decent events and lost albeit less than one stroke off approach, but uh, it does show you that like there's probably not there's probably not a lot of trouble around these greens or even on these green structures. Uh, One thing that is probably, I guess, important as we look at it from a betting aspect is the fact that you see this with like these super low, high scoring events is you're gonna get a lot of tee, you're gonna get a lot of guys tied, right? And so if you're one of those people like me who probably prefers to go into the, I guess, top five, top 10, top 20 betting markets without ties, I'm happy to take that on most weeks. This is probably a week where probably, I guess, you're probably making that call because if you've had a T5 bet here on any of these guys, that's been chopped up so many ways that you'll absolutely cry once you see that bet get settled. And as you can see, it goes from T5 to T13. So a lot of guys will score this week, and you'll probably lose a fair chunk of change if you're not betting into those and tied markets. Just a food for thought. Moving on to the betting market. This is this is ridiculous if I'm being honest. The full disclosure, like you've got to be extremely sick to bet this, in my opinion. Yes, he's probably going to win. He's probably going to win easily. Like maybe not 6 or 7 strokes again, but this is a pretty this is a pretty poor field. I mean, the fact that no offense to Thor, but this is a good. He's like the sixth or seventh favorite. And this guy who hasn't won on tour probably should have, but like there's so much wrong with this betting market. It's not funny. So like there is no chance I'm betting Scotty, and the fact that he is this price actually kind of like it makes it an easy betting tournament for me. Because I can just pick guys at big prices, right? And I don't really need to dial in my approach and go, I need a guy who does, X, Y, Z. I'm just going to go perfect. Scotty is so short on the market that I'm going to get some decent value in the spots that I pick. I'll pick guys who have high upside, guys who have scoring upside, I think, whether that's on the PGA Tour or the Corn Ferry Tour. I should give away one of my picks, but look, there is no chance I'm getting involved in that. Even though like Siwoo at this price, yeah, there's not a lot to love about the top end of the board there. So yeah, um, yeah, moving on. So I've got three players that I've kind of profiled here. First one's Rasmus Højgaard. Um, I bet his brother quite a lot. I don't think his brother's definitely not playing this week, but look, this is a guy who's definitely got the ability. Like, yeah, Nick's having, I guess, a little bit of a moment here, but as you can see, his stuff on the kind of towards the end of towards the end of last season. There's a lot of good stuff. There's like 4 or 5 top tens there. Been a pretty lean, probably last 2 months. Didn't start the season off on fire. Had a T10 at the Cognizant, but look, as I said, like I'm taking guys who I guess have scoring upside and like he didn't like his brother, right? He's got distance off the tee. He does have the flashy aspects to his game. And so yeah, look at the price you're getting him, which is yeah, look, you can get 50s, 60s. I always encourage people to bet at Betfair if you can. You get much, much better pricing than what you see here. I think I got him at 85 on Betfair. So at that price, that's pretty good for me. I'll absolutely take that. Next guy is Michael Brennan, who has probably not really, I guess, captured the PGA Tour like some thought he would have. His Corn Ferry Tour season was ridiculous. Win T51, win T5, T4, win. You don't do that without scoring. He's a absolute cannon, um, absolute cannon off the tee. Like he had some good stretches at the Masters, even at the Heritage. For some reason, I got caught on the broadcast. I think it was like a super early part of the broadcast, and so like it was really only him and a couple of others to show. And like around a tough course that's not a driver heavy course, he played some decent golf. Like he ends up T42 for the week, so it obviously caught up with him. But look, I'm just taking a shot here. It's a guy who's got a weapon off the tee. Um, we know he's not going to get penalized off the tee, so he'll get some closer looks than most guys, and I'm just kind of hoping that yeah, he kind of finds a way to stay there, and maybe he'll be a T5 and 15 shots back of Scotty. Last guy is someone that I feel like I've spoken about in most of these videos. I love this guy. This kid is going to be a complete superstar in my opinion. All he kind of does is just score. There's so many aspects to his game that is great to watch. Should have won the Puerto Rico. Um, shot a 59 or close to a 59, sorry. Like he just kind of he's just electric to watch. Was disappointing at the Zurich. Like I was really expecting a little bit more from that pair. I don't know if that's Clanton's fault, probably. But yeah, like he's kind of been, I guess he's kind of been up and down between the PGA and the Corn Ferry, and like every time he goes back to the Corn Ferry, he's just top five, top tens. Um, Surprised he hasn't won on the Corn Ferry Tour yet. Like that is absolutely coming. Um, Anytime I can bet on him, I'm absolutely doing it. Like there is no question. You get him at like a decent price here. What price is he, Brown? Yeah, so like you get it goes 81 at DraftKings. I think you probably get him at 100 so on Betfair, knowing that. But I'll take my shot there at that. That's an easy play for me. And yeah, look, this is probably the shortest, I guess, favorite in a betting market that we've seen in the probably since Tiger was, going through some of his best runs. Even when Jordan Spieth had that unbelievable year, like he would not have been close to this short. So yeah, this has all of the makings to be a fairly unwatchable event. Scotty's going to win again eventually. And yeah, this probably shapes up to be the best one. But yeah, it's a weak field, high scoring event. Some people probably like low scoring golf. I don't. I love the challenge. I loved everything about last week, and this will be, I guess, a pressure release for a lot of players. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll probably watch a little bit of it. I probably won't watch anywhere near as much as the last week, but yeah, TPC courses, visually nice. Some of them some of them are fun to watch, but yeah, it can be a little bit of flat track bully kind of stuff. So yeah, that's really all I've got. Probably not diving into the DFS stuff this week. Just given the fact that this is probably a tournament I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time in, but if you are, maybe a few names that I guess I would kind of look at. Hayden Springer is probably one. I think he's played some pretty decent golf of late. You're going to get him super low in the betting markets. I'm probably not betting on him, but um, I guess there's all chance that he has kind of a decent-ish week for fantasy. And Pontus Nyholm, the Swedish just bomber, is someone in that Michael Brennan, I guess, kind of criteria. You're probably not winning. You're probably not betting him in the outrights, but if you're playing daily fantasy or if you're looking at those top 20 or top 10 finishes, they're guys who are probably worth a shot. But anyway, enjoy if you're watching it, and enjoy watching Scotty shoot 30 under.